Bullies called the boy adopted. His real father showed up, and everyone went silent. The hallway felt like it was shrinking around him, every echo bouncing off the lockers like a reminder he didn't belong. And 12-year-old Ethan Parker tried to keep walking even as a group of boys behind him whispered loud enough for the whole corridor to hear. And he pretended he didn't hear the word, adopted. Tossed like a cheap insult, but his shoulders tightened anyway. Because no matter how many times he told himself he was strong, some words cut deeper than fists. Ethan's backpack strap slipped off his shoulder as someone tugged it, and he stumbled, catching himself against the cold metal lockers while laughter erupted behind him and one of the boys. Derek, the one who always tried too hard to impress people who didn't even like him, leaned in close enough for Ethan to feel his breath as he sneered. "Hey, man, does it suck not knowing who your real dad is?" And the hallway went quiet in that awful way where people pretend they're not listening, but their eyes say everything. Ethan wasn't the kid who caused trouble. He was the quiet one who drew superheroes in the corners of his notebooks and stayed late in the art room when the world outside felt too loud, and he lived with his mom, Lily, who worked 2 jobs and still somehow kept smiling like the universe couldn't crush her no matter how hard it tried. She raised him alone. Just the two of them in a small rental house with creaky floors, a stubborn front door, and a kitchen that always smelled like cinnamon because she swore it made a place feel like home. And even though Ethan never talked much about the dad he'd never met, he sometimes wondered what kind of man walks away from a kid who still kept an extra seat open at school events, just in case. The school was one of those places where everyone knew everyone else's business, whether they wanted to or not, and the teachers pretended they had everything under control until something messy happened, like the usual chorus of whispers, side eyes, and the quiet sympathy of classmates who were too scared to speak up but too human not to feel bad when the insults went too far. Derek and his crew walked the halls like they owned the place, always pushing the line just enough to avoid real consequences, and today they were in rare form, circling Ethan like sharks who smelled blood, tossing comments about his clothes, his quietness, and finally his family, each word sharper than the last. "Hey, maybe his dad traded him in," one of the boys cackled, nudging Derek, and another added. "Or maybe he never wanted him to begin with," which sent a wave of ugly laughter down the hall, and Ethan felt the burn behind his eyes, but refused to let a single tear fall, because he learned a long time ago that bullies fed off that stuff. The breaking point came so fast it almost didn't feel real. Derek grabbed Ethan's sketchbook, his most personal thing, the place where he kept the heroes he wished he could be, and tossed it down the hallway like it was worthless, pages scattering everywhere. And as Ethan rushed to gather them, one boy kicked a page across the floor while another filmed it on his phone, saying, "Smile for the internet, adopted boy." Something inside Ethan cracked right then, not anger, not even sadness. Just this hollow ache that made him feel small in a way he didn't know how to explain. And for a second the world went quiet around him, that awful ringing silence where humiliation settles like dust that refuses to be brushed off. Then footsteps, heavy ones, confident, the kind that make everyone feel suddenly alert, the kind that don't belong to a teacher or a kid. The glass doors at the end of the hallway swung open with a sharp push, and a tall man in worn boots, dark jeans, and a military jacket stepped inside like he'd walked straight out of a movie scene. His presence so solid the hallway felt different, charged, humming, almost dangerous. His eyes scanned the chaos, paper scattered, kids frozen, a phone in the air, Ethan on his knees. And when his gaze locked on Derek's group, something in it made even the loudest boy take a step back. Ethan looked up slowly, confusion washing over him because he didn't recognize the man, not completely, but there was something familiar about the eyes, a softness behind the storm. The man walked forward, each step controlled, grounded, until he stood right between Ethan and the boys, and in a voice calm enough to be terrifying he said, "Is there a reason you're picking on my son?" And it was like the entire hallway forgot how to breathe. Derek blinked, swallowed, and tried to laugh, but it cracked halfway out. "We were just talking," he muttered, avoiding the man's stare, and the stranger tilted his head slightly, replying, "Talking doesn't leave a kid on the floor." And there was no shouting, no threats, just a simple truth delivered with the weight of someone who'd seen real darkness and wasn't intimidated by children playing mean. He turned to Ethan then, and the boy's breath caught as the man crouched down to gather the loose drawings, handling them like they were fragile, sacred even. And when he handed the pages back he said, voice soft, "You draw like someone who sees the world differently. Your mom showed me your work." Ethan stared, unable to speak, and the man continued, "I'm sorry I wasn't here sooner. I had a lot to fix in myself before I could deserve to show up." The kids around them exchanged stunned glances, some whispering, some shifting uncomfortably, and Derek's face went pale as the man stood again, looking down at him with steady eyes. "Strength isn't about making someone smaller," he said. "It's about being the kind of person a kid can feel safe around. You might want to work on that." No insults, no threats. Just a truth that hit harder than any punch could. Derek lowered his gaze, mumbling something that might have been an apology, and his group scattered like they suddenly remembered somewhere else they needed to be. The hallway slowly returned to normal, though nothing felt normal at all, and Ethan stood there gripping his sketchbook, trying to process the fact that the father he'd only imagined was standing in front of him, real and breathing and apologizing. The man, James, took a slow breath and said, "If you'll let me, I'd like to be part of your life." No pressure, just honesty, and something in Ethan, something tightly wounded and bruised and guarded for years, loosened. Not all the way, but enough. Because sometimes life gives you a moment you didn't think you'd ever get. A moment where someone shows up, really shows up, and it rewrites every story you told yourself about not being wanted. As they walked out together, phones lowered, whispers fading behind them. Ethan felt taller somehow, not because of who his father was, but because of what he'd learned in that single painful, powerful morning. That family isn't defined by who left. It's defined by who shows up when it matters, who stands beside you when the world gets loud, and who looks at you with the kind of pride that makes all the broken pieces inside you feel like they finally know where they belong.